Honestly, I just can't stand the false advertising that paint companies do sometimes. Looking at you, Standish White. You call yourself a white paint color? I don't. And neither should you, because it's not.
What is it, James? I'm confused.
Don't worry, I'll help you figure this color out by breaking it all down on Color Quickie. The series is all about paint colors, their details, how you can use them, and then a color palette that goes with it. So fun, right?
Such fun!
So Standish White is a Benjamin Moore paint color that has an LRV of around 70. And it is a lighter color for sure. And if we're talking interior use on your walls, lighter paint colors like this tend to be more popular and more widely used because they naturally reflect more light. That's what that LRV number really tells us. The higher it is, the more light it's going to reflect back into your space, which is normally a good thing. You don't want to get too light though, because then your colors can just look washed out and they lose all specificity. Standish White, because it's around 69.5, I believe, it's in a pretty nice spot overall. And you can even use it as an exterior choice as well, because sometimes if you pick a bright white outside on your home, it's just way too bright. Standish White, however, it's a nice soft light color that will still look really bright with the sun illuminating it, but it's not overkill. So although Standish White is of course not white, it does behave in a similar way, in the sense that I sort of see it as a light passive neutral paint color. But at least it gives you some subtle coloration, kind of like a French canvasy type of vibe. It's not really going to make a statement, but it's not really meant to at the same time. I find that Standish White has a little bit of a peachiness to it, mixed in with a little bit of gold. So not quite yellow, more of a gold coloration, maybe a hint of green as well. But really it's that peachy quality for me. And being neutral and this subtle, it won't really standish out all that much. Nice. Come on, that deserves a subscribe, right? We're almost at 100K, by the way. It's crazy. I think this is a pretty solid main color or primary color choice in your interior color palette. It does favor many different elements in your home, especially ones that are a little more yellow leaning or green, creams, warm browns, anything like that. If instead you're more of a red, chocolate brown, taupe kind of person, then I found the perfect co-star for our first color pairing, which is this one right over here, 1052. It has an LRV of 62.36, so in comparison to Standish White, it's about 7 points darker, but it does have a similar profile in the sense that it's essentially a variation of beige, all things considered. The main difference you might notice with the two of them side by side is Sea Urchin doesn't really have any of that gold aspect I was talking about earlier because its coloration comes a little more from brown with a touch of red. Standish White has that subtle peachy creaminess, while Sea Urchin almost feels a bit grougey, like a rougey gray beige sort of vibe. I would like to see these colors used in separate rooms typically, but as full-on wall colors. So one might be the hallway and the other one might be the family room, living room, dining room, whatever the case may be. And if we're talking like types of wood, I like Standish White with woods like pine, oak, maybe poplar, and then Sea Urchin for things like walnut, cedar, and mahogany. That kind of vibe. It's a neutral that favors taupe, gray, brown, and red a bit easier, but see which one works better with the space that you're thinking of painting. All right, time to get crazy, y'all, because normally the third color pairing is the accent, but we're on number 2, and honestly, this one's kind of accentuating. It's called Baltic Sea, CSP-680. It has an LRV of 22.2, so very saturated and dark, and I love the fact that it's teal, but it's heavily influenced by its blue aspect. It's part of the esteemed Color Stories palette by Benjamin Moore. So generally speaking, one of their newer colors, company-wide, it's absolutely divine. I do appreciate that it's not really the darkest blue or teal of its kind, so it's still going to do a decent job at reflecting light, taking some weight off of itself. It's also a fantastic exterior color choice if you're a little more on the adventurous side. Although Benjamin Moore doesn't recommend it as an exterior paint color, so you might need a color match. What a shame. Y'all ready for this? This third color pairing is a lot, okay? It's called Apple Crisp, which sounds innocent, but take a look at it. 1,000,000% the accent color here. It's technically lighter than the last color, around 37, 38, although this feels a lot more saturated because of its unique combination of brown, some spicy golden orange, and an overall base of ochre to round it out. This color will pop off any of the other choices in a really dramatic way. It can be very daunting to think of it as an entire room color, but when you think of it more in accent wall form, whether on a single wall panel, or even maybe on a piece of furniture, or even a front door, that's how I feel you can use it without it feeling too daunting. Come on, how awesome do these two look together? We gotta talk about trim colors. So generally speaking, I have two options, a light and a dark variation that work pretty well throughout the entire color palette. And just as a reminder, you could always justify using the wall color on your trim for something a little more streamlined. Just be sure you're using trim paint on the trim and wall paint on the wall. Okay, let's talk about these colors. So the first one is called Sugar Cookie, and I picked it mainly for its shared delicate peachy quality that Standish White has. Great option if you want something lighter, like really light. It's pretty much a white paint color with just a little bit of an undertone. And then for the darker trim color, I didn't want to pick something mega dark because we already have two super dramatic colors in the palette. So I picked light khaki, and I sort of see it as a slightly deeper, more green forward variation of Standish White. Truly a mid-tone trim option rather than going for something super deep, a little more subtle and perhaps more manageable for more people. Are you ready to see them all together? Here they are. There's the color palette. Crazy. I love it. Let me know what you think. Be honest with me. And we have another color palette here. If you're not sick of me yet, make sure you're subscribed before you watch more. Just make sure you're up to date, you know?